do. He said, I can't tell you what to do, because what he was facing is that if he let this person go, it was going to cost the clinic thousands and thousands of dollars because of what they spent bringing her out here, what they're going to have to give her in terms of a package, having to hire a new, all of the stuff that goes on with that. And, he's in that position, he's called to that position because he has the tools and the wisdom and the consciousness and the energy to do what needs to be done to create an environment that is an environment that is appropriate for a medical practice. And so he was going out, this was like last week, and he said, well, I know what I'm going to do. He says, I need to deal with this, and I need to let her go. And that's where he was off. And that's hard, right? It's hard. Spirit guides us. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's difficult to show up in that context. Sometimes it's painful. For me, in terms of my promises that I make, sometimes the decisions I make are difficult and painful and challenging, and not always warm and fuzzy to keep our promise to God. And during the last 6 months, I've been sort of in the question about my position here, whether I should stay or not stay, whether I had the energy to do what's mine to do, whether my mojo was there, all the stuff that shows up. And what place I came to, and I've kind of been standing there, and I'm realizing that it just hasn't been there. As much as I love being here on Sunday, the little details are not showing up for me in the way they need to in order for me to do the job in this ministry that should be done and to honor the position that I hold in this church. And so last week, I gave my notice to the board and said that I'd be leaving as of June 20th because it's appropriate for me to do that. And it's painful, it's difficult, it's a challenge for me. I'm not used to standing up and, sharing that kind of thing. And yet I realize that it's the right thing to do, that it's time for me to take a break, a sabbatical, get some space in terms of ministry, because that's where I am in my experience. Not because of anything anybody's done, but simply because, I've been in ministry 26 years, pretty much solid all the way through, and it's time for me to show up and to assume the leadership role in a way that's appropriate, and that way is to let go. Because I always feel like in leadership, it's just as important to know when to step aside as it is to take the position. That's part of, I think, being in leadership is to know that and to make that decision. So yesterday, the board spent the day just kind of working with the whole dynamic of how that will occur, setting up the process, looking at down the road, over the next 3 months, how that transition will take place. And honestly, it feels like the right thing. They're very supportive. We have a great board. The new group that's on there is just really focused. And I just feel like, I just felt a shift of energy once the decision was made. Once I knew it was time, the energy changed. And you could feel that it's the right thing to do, even though it's hard. Even though it's difficult, even though letting go is never easy for any of us. And so I wanted to share that today because I didn't want all this time to go by. I didn't want a bunch of secrets floating around. I just wanted to be real clear and to be present and know that this is about me keeping my promise to God. And I can honestly say that this past 7 years is the absolute best experience of ministry that I could possibly imagine having. And that's the truth. And it's because of the warmth and love and energy and all the dynamics that exist within the context of this ministry. And so I want to close today with my poem I wrote, which is called The Open Door. One door closes, another opens. There are many entrances and exits in life, many changes that bring strife in God's world of the double-edged knife. We come to places that are important, roads that split into many paths that fill us with what we think are God's wraths, and cause us to resort to divine maths. It's hard to figure it all out in the moment, to know that we will look back and see the change in tack and think of the wisdom that we might lack. The divine flow is not always easy. Our job is to keep the word, to not become a spiritual nerd or join a wayward herd. But even in the midst of unwelcome news, there is a light of goodness there, a sense that God's willing to care, and we can become ever more aware. It is the truth that just because we might be sad, the joy cannot take its place and fill at least part of that joy cannot take its place and fill at least part of the space, and that God can make a good case. One door opens and another closes. Our comfort gets ruffled, our voice doesn't get muffled, and our feathers are all puffled. With God, that is just the way it is, and we listen and follow the road and open our hearts and kiss every toad, and one day we will eat our pie a la mode. God bless you.